The editors who can sustain editing for longer without burning out are the ones who win. So in this video, I'm going to explain how I edit for over 12 hours a day without burning out. If we haven't met already, my name's Sayeef. I've edited for some of the largest YouTubers in the world. And the reason I've been able to hit 10K a month and sustain it is because I was able to maintain my mental health throughout this entire process. The core concept that you need to understand if you want to be able to edit as long as you want is that your mental health will be directly correlated to how productive you are. Think about the last time that you felt like you were burning out. It was likely those periods that you also felt the shittest. And in a weird way, it's a bi-directional relationship, meaning the worse your mental health is, the less productive you are. And then because you've been less productive, the worse you feel about yourself, meaning your mental health is worse, and it's this never-ending spiral. So here's exactly how I solved my mental health in order to be more productive and actually get more editing done in a way that I actually enjoy it. There are 100 self-improvement habits that you could do in order to improve your mental health. You could journal, you could meditate, you could go to the gym. There's a billion things you could do. But what are the few things that you can do in order to maximize your mental health, in order to maximize your productivity without it taking 8 hours a day? This is when I came up with the concept called happiness ROI. ROI standing for return on investment. There are certain tasks that you do that improve how happy you feel. This could be you spending time with your friends. This could be you eating food. This could be you literally editing. But all of these tasks take time. And the ratio between how much happiness something gives you and the time that it takes determines its happiness ROI. So we want to find the few tasks that we can do that have the highest happiness ROI, meaning we can just do these things and we would get the most happiness from it, meaning it prevents us from burning out. So I found there's 5 tasks that have the absolute highest happiness ROI in order for editors, but more importantly humans, to be as productive as they can without burning out. We need to make sure we have our sleep dialed in. Look back at the times that you felt the absolute worst in your editing career. Likelihood is you're probably sleeping like shit. And what you'll find is oftentimes when you feel like you need a huge break or you feel like you're burning out, if you just had a good night of sleep, it'll usually take care of itself. Next is your diet. If you're eating like shit, you're gonna feel like shit. Like oftentimes editors will have super productive mornings where they'll bang out 2, 3, 4 hours of deep work and then they'll have a break. They'll go chill on their phone, they'll go have a meal and whatever. And when they come back to sit down for work midday, they just can't get back into flow. Oftentimes that's because you've had a meal that's super heavy in carbohydrates, like rice or chips or something like pasta. The thing is that these foods that are high in starches and carbs, they are extremely heavy in order for our bodies to digest. So as soon as you put your body into that rest and digest state by having a super heavy meal, you're basically telling your body, hey, we need to put energy towards digestion and we have to not prioritize the brain and these higher levels of thinking. Because just from a survival point of view, think about it like this. If your body has food and it needs to digest that, is it going to prioritize energy towards this task that it doesn't really need to be done now? So the way I've organized my meals throughout my day in order to be as productive as possible is I will have foods that are extremely high in proteins and in fats earlier in the day. And then if I do need to have carbs, for example, I'm trying to put on weight, etc. for the gym, I'm going to put them later in the day when I need to sleep and I don't mind feeling super sluggish and letting my body spend all its energy on digestion. That's what I'm going to do towards the end of the day when I don't really need to do another work session. The next task on our happiness ROI list is literally just drink water. Now you'll realize all of these things sound super fucking simple, and you probably wanted me to say something sexier, like do this crazy 8-step journaling routine to maximize your productivity. But truthfully, those things, first of all, don't always help. But more importantly, they take so much more time than these things. When you think about what your brain is doing during an editing session, it is thinking. And in order for us to think, just from like a first principles level, we need our neurons to literally pass signals between each other. And in order to do that, it uses something called synapses. And between synapses, there's like chemicals that pass through. Now we're getting a little fucking technical here, but in order for that to happen, we need potassium ions to pass through. Now we're getting super fucking like biological whatever here, but essentially all that means is we need electrolytes, like salts, and we need lots of water in order for our brain and the neurons throughout our body and brain and whatever to actually be able to pass signals between each other effectively. And this is why sometimes when you're dehydrated or you've actually had too much water but not enough salts, you can find that your brain almost feels like it's working super slow. So what I always do is literally just have water whenever you're working. In fact, I've got 2 bottles right here. Normally it wouldn't be in plastic bottles, but I'm traveling in Morocco right now, so I don't have my glass bottles. But every time I'm working, I literally stack up on 2, 3, 4, 5 bottles and just keep them there for 2 reasons. First of all, it'll solve the hydration issue, but more importantly, it means I don't have to keep getting up to get more water. So before every editing session, you get a fuck ton of water. If you feel like you're having too much water and you almost feel still sleepy, it's probably a lack of electrolytes. This isn't medical advice, but it's just what I do. Get some electrolytes in there like salts, and it will mean that you can actually think a lot clearer. Next is exercise. Now, this is kind of goes against like the most stereotypical vision that most people have of an editor, like some fucking loser in his kid's bedroom. When I got into editing, I genuinely was about to quit because of that stereotype, where I would see other editors and honestly, they look like fucking losers. Me, myself, I like being in shape. I like being social. I like being, not to sound cringe, but I like feeling fucking cool. So the last thing I wanted to do is have that image of some loser editor where people just assume that I'm in my mum's basement all day. So I got into exercising because truthfully, I wanted to get in shape. I wanted to look good. But interestingly, I found that the more I exercised, my editing career actually improved as well. And it makes sense because if you've got this thing that you're sitting down, you're using all your mental energy, and truthfully, you're not moving around while you're sitting to work, you need to balance that out with movement. One of my mentors said this best. If you ever feel like you're in a rut, or you feel like you're burning out, or you feel like I feel like crap, just ask yourself, are you living like a subhuman? Like humans, we're meant to move. We're meant to move our bodies and walk and move shit around. So if you're living like a subhuman and you're not moving your body, of course you're gonna feel like a subhuman. So simply by moving your body, going for walks, and honestly, I would sign up to a gym just so that you can actually move your body outside of when you're editing, because in a weird way, you'll get more productive when you are actually editing. And if you ever feel like you don't have the time to work out, and I'm saying this because I've had those periods, trust me when I say, the day that you decide that you're not going to work out because you don't have the time and you'd rather spend it to edit, that's the day your productivity is just slowly going to go down. Life is often paradoxical. You would think that it takes time and energy to work out, but in a weird way, the more you work out, the more energy you feel like you have, the more productive and the more time you feel like you have in your day to actually work. And the last task on this happiness ROI list is having a social life. Once again, if you live like a subhuman, you're gonna feel like a subhuman. Even if you're an introvert or an extrovert or whatever you call yourself, at the end of the day, you're a human. And think about it just in like a tribal sense. If you lock yourself into a hut and you have no interaction with any other human for days, sometimes weeks on end, other than your mum who feeds you, of course you're going to feel like shit, because socially, that isn't what we're used to. Like when you're getting burned out, don't see that as a sign that, oh, I need to work less. See that as a sign that, oh, I just need to recover more. And the best way to recover is look at what our ancestors did. In order to recover, they wouldn't scroll on Twitter. They wouldn't say, oh, I need a break, so I'm going to stop hunting for the next few weeks. They would see, how can I recover better? They would sleep more. They would make sure they're eating clean. They would make sure they have enough water and resources that they can actually feed themselves and their family. They would make sure they're moving their bodies. They would make sure that they're actually interacting with their tribe. What they wouldn't do is say, oh, I guess we should stop hunting and stop working, because that wouldn't solve anything. Burnout doesn't happen when you're working too much. It happens when you're not resting enough. But simply resting more and stopping work won't solve the problem. In fact, what will happen is you're going to hate yourself for not getting the work done that you know you're supposed to do, which makes you feel even worse. And that's how editors get into ruts. And I know it sounds hard, difficult, almost like scary to want to put yourself into a situation where you're working more, even though you're scared of burnout. But I say this out of love for you. You will love yourself after 6 months, a year, 2 years of doing this. Like, look back at yourself from a year ago, 2 years ago. The level of work that you used to do back then, you probably look at that version of you who called what he was doing back then hard work. You look back at him saying, dude, you didn't even know what hard work was. Like, I look back at myself a year ago and what he thought was hard work, I look back and I'm like, dude, I would do that on a week that I'm chilling. In the same way, you want to look back at the version of you now thinking, hey, I thought this was hard work in the moment, but looking back at it, that was light work. In the gym, there's a concept called progressive overload. And what progressive overload is it's this concept that you start off with what you can. For example, you might be bench pressing with 20 kg on the bar. In fact, 20 kg is literally not even 2 plates on the side. It's literally just a bar. And when I started out in the gym, I literally could barely do 20 kg. But then 20 kg starts becoming easy over days, over weeks. And then you put 2 little plates on there. Now you might be at 25 kg. And this feels hard. But after your body adapts, you get used to it. And now you put 30 kg. And then over time, you put more and more. And then you eventually get to 60 and then 100 and etc. This is the concept of progressive overload. So at first, you might have only been able to do 1 rep of this, where you could literally move it up once. But over time, you'd be able to do 8 or maybe even 12. And when you go to the next level, you might literally be able to do 3. But then over time, you'll be able to get back up to 8. And then when you move up a level, you might be able to only do 1, 2, or 3, like again. So it feels like, oh, I'm going up to the next level. I'm only able to do 3 reps now rather than the full 8 to 12 that I used to be able to. Oh, I've gotten worse. I can do less reps. But it's because you're taking on a harder task. So when you're progressively overloading your workload, when you're used to only doing 1 video a week, and you tell yourself, oh, I don't want to take on 2 videos a week. The reason being, I might burn out. Well, guess what? The way that you are able to take on 2 videos per week is by taking it on before you feel ready, by pushing into that zone where you feel like you might burn out. And truthfully, for a couple of days, you might actually be kind of stressed. But as soon as you have that experience, you will now be used to editing 2 videos a week. And as soon as you've done that, now 2 videos is going to feel like light work. And now you're able to do 3 videos a week. Like the way you get faster, the way you improve your workflow, the way that you just are able to work more and be more productive is by throwing yourself into the deep end. Not waiting till the day that you become more productive and trying to journal and trying to use a habit tracker, but just by throwing yourself into the fire and trusting yourself that you'll figure it out. So if you want to be able to edit for 12 hours a day without burning out, here's exactly how you do it. Step number 1, take on more work. You might be comfortable with the amount of work you're doing right now, throw yourself into the deep end. Number 2, experience the genuine stress that is going to come. Now this might last for a day, might last for a week, but here's what's interesting. Step 3 is you adapt. I want you to look back at a time you had a super tight deadline. Normally you take a week and a half on a video, but this time the client said he needs it in 4 days. Or perhaps you've left it till the last couple of days. Interestingly, the times that you're most time constrained, like you have the least time to complete this video, those oftentimes become our best projects. And the reason that happens is because desperation is the mother of innovation. It's the moments that you have to get the video done faster. That's when you figure out the workflow that you need to get it done. It's the times that you can't procrastinate. That's how you'll overcome your procrastination. But that doesn't happen when you stay in this safety zone of just taking on enough work that you can get it done. You just got to throw yourself in the deep end.